Hey everyone and welcome. I am SailorDrew. Let's hang out and see how I edit videos. I'll be showing you various ways I create impact and insert meaning into my episodic videos and tutorials. For the time being, this video will be for members only, as it was requested by them, but also because I'm still going through a pretty strong evolutionary period right now on how I actually do edit. Not only that, but I don't want this to be an advertisement or a stamp of approval for the program that I use, Wondershare Filmora. I've used it for a really long time, and I have some pretty complicated feelings about the program and the company, as I've had a lot of paid stuff taken from me that I can't get back, as well as a lot of UX issues, which is like just user design, just a lot of headaches all around. Regardless, it's still what I use just because I haven't had time to look into other programs that have super high praise. So if you're not a member and if you're seeing this, I wonder what choices future me has made. Anyways, let's just go ahead and jump into some editing. So right now I'm editing my 9th episode in my Rimworld Ideology series. So I've already inserted like a couple gags and editing choices into it, but I'm going to be showing you various choices and little things that I do throughout various episodes because I'm just going to be compiling them as they happen. So you'll be seeing like a wide range of things. Right now, like I've already added like one joke. So like here we're up on this like toxic city and there's like a lot of dead bodies. So I added like a little bit of a joke. But I've got another one that I want to do here. And usually if I have to come back and do more editing, I'll just put some random photo and make it really large to remind me of my place of where I stopped editing. So here, there are some like surgery noises going on in the background and I want to make like a little gag. I do have some of my custom made text in here. So I'm just going to insert this one, even though it doesn't say what I want it to say. It says squirrel because I use this a lot for like whenever I have a really bad ADHD moment, I'll insert this. But I use this text because of the color, the font, and typically the size and everything. It's really easy to manipulate. So I just use it as a baseline and just change what I want it to say. So, like I want it to say like surgery, oh gosh, okay, surgery noises. And we'll go into advanced. And I'm gonna use a lot of these. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy and paste the text here. So that way I can sit here and drag it and move it over to the side because the surgery is happening on the right side. And if you're listening in stereo, like on your TV, your phone, or especially headsets, you can actually tell that the surgery is happening over to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and sit here and edit it to where it's, you can tell that that's where it's coming from. Okay. So I've got all of the text kind of where I want it. Now I'm going to sit here and change when they pop up on the screen so that way it's just like a continual roll. But first, what I really need to do is I actually need to adjust the length in which this text is going to show up. So I actually need to sit here and listen and see like how long I'm talking with me focusing on this and talking about something completely different while ignoring the totally disgusting, gross, squelching sounds that are happening off to the right. Okay, so it's actually probably exactly where I need it to be. I want it to keep going until like it starts to pan out because any sort of camera movement kind of changes. I don't know, it's if you ever took like speech class, like in school, they teach you like if you move, you're kind of resetting the audience's attention because then that's the time where you need to actually sit there and change your topic or something. And while I'm not actually changing what I'm talking about, it kind of breaks away from that moment in time. So I think that this is like the perfect length. All right, so this is a little bit of like of a freeform type of thing to where I'm sitting here dragging the length of each text And while you're stopped, it shows all of them so that way you can see the placement. And then we'll be able to play and see what it actually looks like. Shrink zone. We have a metric ton of chocolate. And for me, the text is a little too long. Like, I want it to be a little shorter and have like a little bit more of a gap. So the point of kind of like these like little gag texts isn't necessarily so you can sit there and read everything accurately and like contemplate it and think about it and take it in. It's quick impressions. All right, so I have messed with the quantity, the spacing, the sizes, everything. Just basically tweaking this until I feel like I've got it into like a good area that I like. I might revisit this later on to tweak it even more, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to accomplish here. All right, and here I'm going to be adding another gag where we're celebrating the fact that we finally succeeded in something that we have been trying for a really long time. This is her 4th surgery to try and give her a peg leg. So I've headed over to effects, which are items, and then anything that changes basically the appearance of the quote-unquote film, I guess. So I usually do like some sort of banner where it says like, let's celebrate, and then it will do confetti as well. I need to bring over a sound where children are cheering. Okay. So now it's just a matter of lining these up and making sure it looks, you know, it fits, it looks good. The sound effects are always like super loud whenever I bring them over, so I've got to like lower the sound a little bit. And I'll sit here and change the timing on this a little bit. Yeah, and see like this effect, like it just keeps like cycling, so we got to like find where it ends. So we'll like just kind of like nudge this over, and then that's it right there. So that's as much as like we're gonna get out of this. So all right, so I'm gonna end this whenever my laugh ends. I also typically like zoom in a little bit whenever I do like these little gags, because again, we're like changing, we're kind of like doing a little bit of like of a side, we're changing the perspective. There's a couple ways you can do this in this program, and again, it doesn't really matter how you do this. This is just basically the lazy cheaty way of doing this. And yeah, because again, you'll do this however you do it in your program. So since I cut off the sound, we're gonna have it like fade out a little bit. 4th time's the charm, baby. Okay, the only time I'll ever watch an edit at the very beginning is if I've just made a slight adjustment, so I can actually see like how it compares. Whenever I'm deeming if an edit is actually good and if it fits, I'll go back a ways. And the reason why I do this to go back a ways and then I watch it is so that way I can get the experience of like, okay, I'm settled in, I'm used to this pacing, I'm used to this narrative, and then all of a sudden there's a change. You know, I can't get used to this pacing and then feel if this is natural and if it fits and it feels good, like the timing and the editing looks great, if I'm constantly just watching it back from the beginning. This one's a super easy edit. And again, most programs will have something similar to this transition. I am talking about the flooring that I'm using, and then I've cut off to where I made like a really good statement, and then I cut again to where I start talking again, because a lot of this is waffling, like me just kind of waffling and just being waffly, where I'm just kind of like, I don't know, talking something to death, kind of like I'm doing right now. And then dead space, because I knew that I was going to edit back into whenever I started talking about the final result. So I cut this portion out. Let's just delete it and take it out. I'm getting better about being more discerning. I guess like trimming the fat. So that's one of the evolutionary stages that I'm at, where I'm trying to find a good way to still keep my voice and kind of like a happy medium of like who I am, the kind of content that I like to watch, the kind of content that historically y'all like to watch, but also kind of like newer and fresher, I guess. But I do a dissolve transition. All right, so we're doing this arabesque. And then I sit here and watch it a couple times to just make sure that it's okay, that I'm not accidentally like cutting off myself like in mid-sentence or anything weird. I do dissolve for continuing a story or a narrative, and I do fade for like hard transitions. So you never really want to use fade in the middle of your video unless like there are very rare incidences where I've used fade in the middle of an episode. And I know that there's been something recently where I've used it and it very much, very, very, very much needed it. But 9.99 times out of 10, you'll always want to stick to the dissolve because you're continuing the story. This is you having a statement, continuing the story in a fluid motion. This is like adding but or an end. Like there's a hard transition. So that's what the difference between these two are. And that's why you'll always see me use these in my videos. All right, so this one's a little one-off. It might not fit or something. Like, I don't know. I was just like, I might as well as add this in here. So I have all of these custom texts because I use them a lot, or I can adjust them to my purpose rather easily. I have one for brain buffering because, again, like I have ADHD, and this kind of helps for times when I can't cut out a really long pause while I'm trying to think. It's just inevitable. Like I can't help it. Like it's just my brain. So I actually like created something for it. So what I do is I sit here and insert this. Sometimes I'll adjust it depending on what length I need it. I basically did the same technique as we saw at the beginning of the video where I have multiple pieces of text, but this one has an animation because it kind of throws back to like something loading basically. And it would just be way too awkward for me to actually sit here and like cut this out. So what I do is I add this in and then I go over to elements, which are objects like that you can put in here. And I'll do this one. So again, because of the new updates, which I'm just like, love-hate relationship. Like most of this video should be helpful. And then like at least 30% of it is just gonna be me like whining and moaning about like how much I like have a love-hate relationship with this program. So I'll sit here and add it. This is one of those ones that you can't drag to make longer. So I've got to like recopy it. I copy it and paste it after I've made the adjustments because if I do it beforehand, it'll copy and paste like its base. Like it'll just look like this over and over again, and it'll be impossible for me. It'll just take up way too much time for me to actually sit here and line this up. Okay, and then I also noticed that there's a little bit of a nub here, which again, that's like part of the new headache with the new version of this. So we're just gonna ignore that happened, but I caught it. So now it just looks like I'm sitting here like loading because that's basically what my brain is doing. So, and it works perfectly. So if I were to sit here and edit this out, we could take a look and see what that looks like. So I'm gonna cut that. And I mean, maybe I could sit here and edit it. Like Yarrow. So what I would do in this instance is I would actually make the dissolve transition be way shorter because I'm transitioning between like a much shorter period of time and I'm not changing scenes or locations. like Yarrow of Athena. So again, I go back further. More like Yarrow of Athena, like so I can see what it looks like. So it's a little awkward. I could do version A where we keep everything in, or I could do version B. Like there's really, it's just basically dealer's choice. Whichever one you think looks better, use that one. Here's another instance of editing that I do occasionally where I'm doing a little bit of a throwback to like an earlier joke. So here I'm sitting here talking about how my colonists are bringing back like a lot of clothing, and it's from all the dead bodies from that toxic city. So I'm going to place like a cut here. Normally I don't cut like the quote unquote film basically, unless like I absolutely need it to be, but occasionally I'll do it to like save my place. Like there's no other real way to do that in this program that I know of. So I'm going to go back and copy the resources from the beginning. And what I'll do is, oh, see, look, I lost my place a little bit, didn't I? Yeah, see, I just, there's like so many things in this where I'm just like, I hate it so much. All right, so I'm going to sit here and copy all of these. Okay. And then we're going to go back to that cut so I know exactly where I need it. And I have a couple of options. I'm either going to just overlay it on the current film so that way like it doesn't interfere with anything. We just need to sit here and like, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extend this a little bit to where there's like a little bit of a silence, but it's not as long as it was originally. All right, so I've shortened it to a time where like a length where I think the joke will land and the timing feels right, because it's again a throwback, not like or like throwbacks or flashbacks. Like you never really need, or at least hopefully you don't need to do like the entire length of it. So what I'm doing is I'm sitting here cutting this to where it's cut to where I start talking again. Then I'm going to insert this. So sometimes I'll do like the flashback over me talking, but for this one I'm kind of like it makes a little bit more sense to like actually just have it be like this like blunt like remember dead bodies. Like I don't know, it's so morbid. But yeah, I think this will be perfect. All right, so what I've added to make my point clearer, especially if someone has never played RimWorld and they understand the mechanics of like getting free clothing and repurposing it, I added just a little bit of text, aka free clothes. So, and again, I don't necessarily need this to be as long as like closed captions for people to understand, like to sit there and again like read, contemplate, yes. Like jokey text tends to be like a little bit faster because you can get a lot of it from context, you know, in addition to kind of just like seeing like the text like read out. So it just, a lot of comedy is timing. And it's kind of funny because like taking like theater classes or whatever, you learn like comedy is a lot harder than tragedy, and it's because you have to have like a sense of timing. And I mean, I don't know, I think my sense of timing is pretty okay. So I've done all of my editing for a video, and I need to do a little bit of B-roll, like extraction. What I do is I insert the B-roll, again, film. I just keep calling it film. You're just gonna have to deal with it. If you're a stickler for jargon, I apologize. I do it in the back, like after the end of the video, and I sit here and I go through and chop up what I need to place where I need it. So that way it doesn't accidentally overlap any of the stuff that I need. This is just basically like a safety precaution, since I have several layers all throughout my video. Okay, so I'm doing a little bit of a flashback sequence here. So I have my B-roll on top of what I'm talking about. So typically with like the flashbacks, like I kind of like to do like a dreamy type of ripple transition. So this is how it looks like. I've been getting a lot of nuts with farming. Okay, but I also kind of want to like give it a little bit of extra effect so that way it kind of feels like, yes, this is a memory, not like real time. So I want to sit here and maybe like put a little bit of like a tent on the footage. I've been getting a lot of nuts. So that way it's like a little bit more clear that I'm like throwing back to something that happened previously. Again. And yeah, looks good. And I've got like 4 pieces of video that I want to overlay on some video that we can't really see right now. Right now, I'm just kind of tweaking them, and because I just brought over like chunks. So I'm sitting here kind of like seeing like, okay, what will make sense to show like there was like a passage of time that we didn't see, and how things are about to be revealed as like super, super different. So I'm just sitting here kind of tweaking everything, make sure that everything like lines up with the beginning segment, which sometimes it's kind of hard to tell. Okay, there we go. Yeah, because I still have it like way up here because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to sit here and like accidentally bulldoze over everything else. So most of these are fine. One of these I want to zoom in on. So I'll do it the real way this time. I'll crop because I'm not really sure how I'm going to be utilizing the footage or like the size and stuff like that. So there's a difference between this and the custom animation, which I'm not going to get into because again, this isn't a Filmora tutorial. This is just a tutorial on like how I make my editing decisions and how I edit things. Okay, great. So now I just gotta do some transition work and opacity changes because I want this to overlay this footage here. All right, so I've got it kind of to where I want it. It's a little funky, but I don't really care. It's just a few moments in a 25-minute long video or whatever, to where it looks like she's recalling like the past year and a half from last video. So she's like having like all of these memories, showing that there's been a lot of development because the beginning of the episode shows how much the space has changed. So typically, like, I'll kind of do like a little bit of a upcoming bit about what happens in the video. Sometimes though, if I need to bring the audience along and let them know that there have been significant changes, I will do some sort of beginning animation, a little bit of storytelling, something like that. So I leave my beginnings a little bit flexible. Like, I don't think that they need to be rigid because, you know, I need them to suit my needs, whatever they may be, and those are always changing. I do the fade to bring in to start the episode, and then also to end like the little beginning clip before my beginning, my intro, because I'm doing a hard transition to showcase like, okay, we're done talking about that. Now there's a new topic, which is why I do a fade here and then I do a dissolve here. Because this is a continuation and this is kind of like a period, like a pause, an end, a stop. Here I am kind of freaking out about something amazing. So usually whenever I do this, I will drag over this kind of anime wow sound that's a bit of a meme. And I'll try and line up the sound a little bit because I gotta chop off the beginning. So yeah, somewhere around here is where I want it to be. The program kind of has it like snapped to weird places, so sometimes I gotta like pull the beginning. Let's see here. So okay, and then I gotta turn this down so that way I can actually like hear myself over it. We're also going to like zoom in a little bit I like to zoom in to kind of bring home a point usually. And pardon me, Mabel is squeaking her toy. She always is. I just need to stop apologizing for it and like every video, every time it happens. But let's see here. So effects, I usually do some sort of like sparkly stuff. So something like this. Okay. This is way too, like, it kind of blinds out everything else. So we're going to turn it down a little bit, like the opacity on it. And then there we go. So I'll sit here and kind of chop off the tail ends of everything, because I want it to kind of line up with the sound. And we'll like make the zoom go back to regular and everything. Something else I do a lot is like anytime I make some sort of like disgusted or guttural noise, I'll sit here and kind of like shake the screen a little bit. So right now, like I'm about to make one. At the beginning, like I'll sit here and like cut it to isolate it. Okay, it's kind of like a long one. And if I just want to like slightly emphasize this, I'll just sit here and increase the scale just slightly. Like if it's a more impactful one, I'll zoom in even further and maybe even like tilt the screen. So it just depends on like the ferocity of which I am disgusted to where I'll sit there and make like more extreme changes. Okay, so I actually like have to, yeah. So that's actually like where I want to like have it. So I'm gonna delete my little zoom in there and then just do the same thing. So, and again, this is just kind of like a faster way to do like quick zoom ins. You're gonna have to be careful with that one because depending on where your little marker is at, that's where it'll make the change. So that's why I typically use like the crop feature. Okay, so yeah, perfect. Okay, let me show you how I do the beginning of my videos. It's fairly simple. The biggest favor I could have ever done for myself was actually creating a few different templates for my episodes. So I always open up whichever episode base I need. This one has 2 stars next to frequent commenters who are also star supporters of my channel. I have one for 3 stars, and then I just have like the base file all throughout. But this saves me from doing all of this work over and over and over again. So what I'll do is I'll open up whichever applicable one that I need, and then I will drag over the files that I need to edit into the program, and I'll put them down here. I'll make sure that it shoves everything over to the right, because if you're not careful in this version of Filmora, you could actually cut into a lot of those like resources and it would like break it up, which is not what I want. And the hardest part of doing this is honestly finding where I start recording or speaking, I should say, because sometimes I'll just have a really off day where my brain is having a little bit of a hard time getting started. So I'll do several false starts. And then so I'll sit there and kind of like start editing in the wrong spot. But this one, it's a little easy to tell because there's like a continual string of vocal activity that I can see just based off of the sound. So I'm assuming that I start around here somewhere. So I'm just going to sit here and kind of listen to see where exactly I need to cut off the beginning of the video. Hey everyone and welcome. I am SailorDrew. Okay. So I usually just do kind of like a tiny bit beforehand. I'll cut it there and I'll delete all of the access. I'll drag this over. All this is to show me how long of a snippet that I need. I'll always also zoom in because again, this version of Filmora, it doesn't snap to the beginning and endings as easily. So if I'm not careful, I'll sit there and cut into it and it'll be too short or too long. So I'll cut the audio by doing Control X. I'll delete these two. I'll hit stop to go back to the beginning, and I'll hit paste. So that way it pastes the audio where I need it to be, so that way my intro will play. And I already have the transition on here. The transition will only stay on my intro clip, because if I were to drag it over to where it would be on my intro and the beginning of the clip, it will mess with the audio at the beginning here. So I'll have like this really weird halting like dip before it normalizes again, which is what I want to avoid. So the transition will always stay to the left.
Hey everyone, and welcome.
And I'll always go and take a look and just make sure that nothing weird is going on. Because again, sometimes like this audio, because Filmora doesn't snap anymore like it used to, which is sometimes I can have a little bit of hangover, so I'll get this weird stutter here because I didn't like zoom in all the way to like make sure that it was like very precise. Because again, like if I'm zoomed out, it definitely plays tricks on you. You think, because see, look here, it looks like I'm at the end of the clip, but whenever you zoom in all the way, I'm not. So I always have to be really careful. And any sort of adjustments or work that I do, I'll usually go back and make sure that it plays through exactly how I need it to be. So fairly simple with a lot of explanation. So this might be Filmora specific, but you can't put transitions on elements and overlays. So I kind of have to sit here and cheat a little bit, because again, normally I'll fade in and I'll fade out for the kind of like this episode, like kind of little blurbs that I put at the beginning of my episodes. So thankfully they give us kind of like the sample color like palette here, where we could just like enter in like basically like a photo of a color. And what I'll do is I'll put black at the beginning and over the end and then the beginning of my intro. And I mean, the black will just kind of like pop in and out, but what I'll do is I'll actually add the transitions to these. So this will actually like hide everything below this. So it just kind of, I mean, it's like a kind of cheaty way of doing this. And this is something that I found out like recently, because I was doing this like a little bit more like complicated in the past than I really needed it to be. So see, it kind of acts like the fade in. And then the same, it kind of acts like the fade out. So, and I'll just sit here and kind of like tweak these a little bit, just so that way like I'm not having like a huge amount of like kind of just like blank dead space basically. Also, I'll sit here and kind of like mess with these, like the sounds individually, because normally whenever I put the transitions, it will automatically put a fade in and a fade out with the audio. Okay, so that one's still a little too long, so I'll go ahead and shorten it a bit. And there we go. So that's how I do that if I ever have to do overlays. Alright, I'm going to show you how I end an episode. So the best practice is that you don't lead up to the ending. You don't use a lot of ending terminology or like language, and just have this really long drawn out ending, because you want as much watch time as possible. So sometimes I'll put jokes at the end of my videos. It used to be like a really common thing that I used to do back in my Love Nikki days. And sometimes I'll do it because it like really calls for it. It's like the post scene cut, like post credit scene, like Marvel and stuff like that. So, but I have my ending kind of all set up. So I use let me show you. and I'll drag in my video footage and I'll save this. I'll save as something else. So I have all of these resources that I've put together, like all this time and effort to do this. So this is kind of like what we're looking at. We're looking at some stuff that I need to drag over to the beginning of the video, like my social media information. Then also the fact that I have affiliate game links so that way people can buy the games and I can get like a like a minuscule little like kickback. So it helps me out at least a little bit. So every little bit helps, I guess. Then also like I want people to remember to like the video. So likes don't really do anything other than give the video creator just a little bit of like a little pat on the head saying, good job, keep it up. So I don't think that likes really do anything for the algorithm. It's more watch time and comments now that they care about. Watch time being the big one, as well as how long they stay on YouTube after your video, and then comments. But I still like the likes because it communicates directly to me that people who maybe are lurkers, because I'm actually a lurker, I don't always comment on every video that I see, so I'm part of the problem. I'll sit there and try and like videos because it lets the creator know that like, hey, like I might be shy or I might not have anything to say, but I like your video. Anyways, I digress. Everything in here has a purpose. It took me a long time to formulate this, so I might go over a little bit more, but let's get back to our project so I can show you exactly how I actually use this for the ending. So I am trying to get to the point to where I can sit here and just be like, okay, I'm ending the video, bye, because that's, again, best practices. However, sometimes stuff keeps happening to where I sit here and keep talking. So this is why I have my end set up the way that I do. If you've never seen any of my videos, like if eventually, again, this goes public and you're just like trying to learn some stuff, this will be new to you. If you watch my videos, this will be very familiar. I only have this piece, this picture, as a reference of how long I need a video clip to be. So I'll sit here and chop it. And before I drag it over, I'll sit here and start to resize it. Because again, this program, if you remember me mentioning earlier, it's extremely picky now to where it thinks that you're trying to grab things that are up top. So it's a little bit, it's harder to kind of do this, but I kind of found like a little bit of a quick way to do it. So because I sit there and waffle still and I talk about like things like, because there have been times where like all of a sudden the game like has like a major event happen or something goes on to where like I can't end the video. So this is why I still have the video playing even though like I'm trying to end it. So it will play over my end credits. And what I do is, so I resize it and everything. Then I do like a little bit of a transition. And I minimize this as much as possible. So that way it just kind of makes it look fluid to where it kind of... It's not just like an instant like, oh, it's the end. It's there's a tiny bit of a transition.
Okay.
The reason why I cut back a little bit further or further in the beginning, further back, and also detach all of the audio is because this program, the newest version of it, the transitions, the distortion to the audio is much more noticeable than it used to be. So you have to detach the audio so that way it doesn't have like this like, oh, I'm getting quiet and now I'm loud again. So that way there's not like this little dip. I also do this at the beginning of my videos, which hopefully at some point in this video like we've already covered. But yeah, so that's how I do that. And then I'll just go ahead and sit here and cut. I'll go back to the beginning and paste this at the beginning because that's normally where I put this. And then I put this at the end. So verbal calls to action aren't really super effective and they just take up time and it gives people an opportunity to click off of your video. So that's why I've moved to more of a like just a visual reminder saying like, hey, like, could you please do this? So you want to, if you're going to do a call to action, just do one. And usually you want to do one for like, you know, hey, if you enjoyed this video and you got a lot of information off of it and you want to see more of my content, become a channel member, click the join button. You know, that's a call to action. Or if you enjoyed this information and hopefully all of the other editing videos and videos about how I am a creator and my process and everything, you know, hit the PayPal button in my description down below and give me a tip that way. Basically, something like that. More nuanced, more finessed, you know the drill. So the most successfully though, or the one that like best practices again say you're supposed to do, is like basically ask a question so that way you do get that engagement that we were talking about, like a question answered. I just unfortunately am too slow to think of stuff off the top of my head. It's something that I'm really working on, and I need to just set aside some time to really go over the process and think about it to kind of come up with like a way to do it, because it's kind of like an improvisation technique, right? That's what it feels like. Part of the due diligence of what I do whenever I'm editing videos is I'll go back and I will quickly rewatch all of the edits that I've done to make sure that nothing happened during the editing, because a lot of times I'll jump back and forth. Like if I need to get like a clip of a video to recall, or if it occurs to me later on, like, oh, like actually this would be better, like I might make adjustments. This is something that I definitely suggest that you do. I've made a lot of grave errors in trying to get a video out way too soon and not doing this. And really all it is just to make sure everything lines up. I don't know if you really have to do this in other programs, but this one is a little bit notorious for basically taking your stuff and like rearranging it. Exporting a finished video, go to create video, do whatever the equivalent is in the program that you're using. It was sitting there validating that I actually have the paid version of this program. I don't know if it tells you in here or not, but sometimes this will log you out. And then you'll sit here and spend an hour rendering this video, and it'll come out with a watermark. So that's another thing that I just love about this program. So if I ever need to like double check, like I will up here, I think it's like up here or something to, yeah. So up here, it says account information, so I know that I'm logged in. So again, create video. I just double check that occasionally, once in a blue moon, because again, like I've just had like bad experiences. So settings, these are my settings that I use. I do best just because I guess I'm bougie like that. Like I want like a ultra high definition version to come out, because the way that my husband and I experience YouTube is that we are streamers, in the sense that we stream it through the television and watch it on our TV. So we need videos to be super high def, so that way it's not like super distorted and weird. We also sit back really far, so we need to be able to read stuff. So this is just basically like personal preference. Also, my computer can handle this. I click this, it gives it a little bit more of a boost. This might be confusing, and I could do a tutorial if you need to know what the difference between your S drive is and just your basic hard drive. The S drive is super, super fast, super compact, but it only has like 200 gigabytes on it. You need your operating system on it, all of your resources, everything that you're using. And so you don't basically cross the streams like Ghostbusters reference. You want to save it to your hard drive, which has the 3 terabyte storage. That's basically how you can tell the difference. I have like 2 extra hard drives. I have one that's in the computer, and then I actually have one that's a portable one, which is like super tiny. So I save it there so that way it's all, basically you want this all going in a one-way street, a one-way direction, because then it'll be faster. So depending on how fast it is also depends on A, just like your computer specs, B, also if you have everything on your S drive and you're exporting it to, again, the bigger drive, so that way it could be like a one-way traffic street to make your traffic go faster. Also, if you just leave it alone, like I don't touch this, I don't do anything with my computer while I'm rendering because it makes it just go a little bit faster. The other component, which I found out a lot with, and see, and you can tell this is a members only video starting out because I'm talking about a lot of content that y'all have seen, that y'all have been with me for a long time and you know about. Even if this goes public, like you can go back and reference and look what I'm talking about. But I also learned the hard way that if a game is super hyper, like high def, and the raw footage comes out extremely crazy high def, like all of this is just going to shave off like some of the render time. Like my Dragon Quest videos, like on my old computer, it would take me 7 hours to render one video. And that was because my computer was so old. Other things like Stardew Valley, which I mean, obviously like it's a pixel game, it's not as high resolution. It would take me like maybe just a couple hours. So now, like Stardew Valley and things like RimWorld, it's more like a 1 minute. Like there's a term for it, and I'm trying to think of what it's called, but it's basically like a 1-for-1 ratio. So 1 minute takes 1 minute to render is usually kind of where I'm at right now. Like we're actually clocking like a lot better. This fluctuates a lot, but we're doing a lot better than 1-to-1, which is fantastic. I love this computer. I found it on Costco at an insanely good price. But guys, that is going to be it for this video and this tutorial. I hope to have many more out, so check out the playlist of other videos about like my experiences of how it feels to be a content creator, what I've learned over all of these years, best practices, all of that. If you enjoyed it and want to see more content from me, please hit that like button and comment down below. Ask me questions. Ask me things that, you want answered. Something that you've never really seen answered in a concise and very exploratory way. I'm curious. I'm curious to know what you're curious about. But until next time, take care, and I will see you in the next video. See? Like that.